So we have reached what may be the final stage of my depressed Celtics fan state, which is accepting the fact that Kyrie Irving could leave this offseason. But I'm going to try to use this video to say, perhaps that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because with all the weird stuff that's happening this year for the Celtics and the team not being together and Kyrie's failed attempts at leadership, you can make a pretty good case that this team isn't going to the finals even with Kyrie Irving. And there are some other things to look into. The first one, the biggest one, is that Jason Tatum would get more shot attempts. So I know that there's this group on the internet that is building up lately that says Jason Tatum's overrated, and they look at his stat lines and they don't actually watch him play basketball. The way he is so fluid, attacking defenders and hitting contested shots and step backs, the dude has some real talent to put the ball in the basket. The problem is he hasn't gotten enough opportunities in the Celtics offense. There's a lot of guys who want to shoot the ball, and Kyrie certainly shoots the ball quite a lot. So him being the vocal point of the offense could be huge. Jaylen Brown could also have more opportunities to just be a little more comfortable because he was all out of whack when this season started, and I don't think of Jaylen as highly as I do Tatum. But when you compare his offense in his second season versus this year, he's just not as good this season. And perhaps with Kyrie gone and more time for Jaylen just to have the ball in his hands and moving around on offense rather than just standing in the corner, that could be good for him. Next, we got to get to Gordon Hayward. You got to assume that he's going to be back to the Utah Jazz Hayward by next season. I mean, if it doesn't happen then, there's a chance it's not going to happen at all. They say that he's been awesome in practice, and the problem has been that he's got a mental block during games. Makes sense, he's been a little hesitant attacking the basket, but he's had a great stretch right before the All-Star break. We'll see if he can build on that. But if Kyrie Irving is gone, but you at least have the Gordon Hayward of 3 or 4 years ago, then that's still pretty good. That's a guy who can help your offense out a lot. We're going to talk about defense a little bit, speak on Al Horford. So the Celtics defense has been pretty bad the last couple weeks, but for most of this season, it's been really good. Horford is of course a big reason for that. His playmaking should keep on keeping on even as he gets older. And as long as his jump shots are going in, I think he can be still a really quality two-way player. He doesn't rely on his athleticism too much, so you'd hope that the Celtics could sign him after he accepts his player option next season, and that could be their center for the next few years. I mean, there's a chance that he slows down to the point where he's just stuck in quicksand, but given how smart and skilled he is, I'd like to think that Horford can hang on for quite a while, and it would be great if they could sign him to a smaller contract. They also may already have Horford's replacement on the team in Robert Williams, who is athletic as all hell. The way he finishes around the rim with alley-oops and offensive rebounds and rolling to the basket, the guy is kind of frightening when he finishes, and he's got work to do as a defender and an overall offensive player, sure, but if the Celtics can mold him while Horford can stick around, that's pretty alright. They of course still have all their draft picks moving forward. Shout out to realgm.com for this. Now, if we can go into details about those picks, the Kings are a lot better than we thought they were going to be, so that pick is not as amazing, but it's still pretty decent. The Clippers, as of right now, would be giving their pick to the Celtics, and they're still trying to make the playoffs, at least the players are, and they're going to get that Grizzlies pick at some point. So Danny Ainge still has all the ammo to draft guys, make moves, and all that stuff. Although I don't think AD happens because the ticket to keeping him was probably Kyrie, and you'd have to include Tatum, and that's too much of a risk. Now, one thing going back to Kyrie that is going to be really tough to replace, besides his scoring of course, is that capable ball handler who can run the offense. I think their hope is that Terry Rozier can do it. I'm kind of out on Rozier at this point. I know he had the playoff run, but he takes so many bad shots. All these pull-up jumpers and just random moments where he thinks he's so much better than he actually is. I don't know if you can rely on that guy to run your offense like that. Now, Marcus Smart is pretty erratic himself, but he's always been a winning player for the Celtics, and his passing has gotten better. His turnovers are a little down this year. but I don't think he's a good enough ball handler to have it in his hands as much as a normal point guard requires. I mean, he's basically a shooting guard for the Celtics, so I don't know if you can rely on him like that. There is also Gordon Hayward, who towards the end of his Jazz days was a pretty damn good playmaker, even if his assists were around 3 to 4 a game. He was a very efficient ball handler and all that. It might have to be a point guard by committee thing if Kyrie Irving leaves, because this team doesn't have all the cap space in the world. But, you know, they could get somebody. They do have some guys who can dribble. Now, there's of course a chance that Kyrie Irving leaves and the offense falls apart and some dark days are ahead for the Celtics, but I'd like to think this team can still be good and potentially even very good without Kyrie because of all the stuff I talked about in this video. I mean, the group out there that thinks the Celtics are better without Kyrie, there's a chance they're right. I mean, I don't agree with them, but hey, they could be onto something.